Thank you. Good afternoon. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. I'll ask for a roll call, please. Deputy Mayor Campbell.
Present.
Oh, sorry. I'm jumping the gun here. This meeting will be sparsely attended due to the social distancing, and we do have a public meeting tonight. So I'm just mentioning that so that we know that we don't have anybody in the chambers for the public meeting at the time, and hopefully they join us on the web. Deputy Mayor Campbell.
Present.
Councillor Humphreys.
Present.
Councillor Webster.
Present.
And I'm present. Has Councillor Carew called in?
I have not heard from Councillor Cleroux whether he's going to make the meeting or not.
Okay. As we gather here today, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and expect to express our respect and support for their rich history. And we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Any pecuniary interests? None being heard. And I better declare myself on the Transportation Environmental Service Committee. Confirmation of council agenda. Could I have a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Webster, second by Councillor Humphreys. Any comments? Hi, Lane. Councillor Carew. All in favor? Deputy Mayor Campbell.
In favor.
Councillor Humphreys.
In favor.
Councillor Webster.
In favor.
Councillor Carew.
In favor.
And I'm in favor. We have a public meeting on a zoning amendment for the Township of Horton. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. I don't need a mover or seconder to go in there, right? And is this my meeting or Councillor Carew's? Fine, okay. So on the public meeting, is there any declaration of pecuniary interest? Hope you want to go ahead with the purpose of the amendment, please.
So the purpose of the amendment is to update the provisions regarding storage trailers in the Township of Horton current comprehensive zoning bylaw to permit shipping containers and storage trailers to be used as an accessory building in all zones with no requirement for a minimum lot size. A shipping container is defined as an enclosed metal structure designated to facilitate the transportation of goods by several different means of transportation and shall include intermodal shipping containers, transport truck trailers, and straight truck boxes, but does not include any vehicle. A storage trailer is defined as any vehicle so constructed as to be suitable for attachment to a motor vehicle for the purpose of being drawn or propelled by the motor vehicle, except a mobile home or farm implement. The effect of the amendment is to add the following provisions under section 3.31 of the zoning bylaw. A shipping container storage trailer shall not be located within 20 meters of a front lot line. Where a shipping container storage trailer cannot be located 20 meters from a front lot line, the shipping container / storage trailer must be located in a rear yard and be a minimum of 3 meters to any side or rear lot line. Shipping containers and storage trailers shall be visually screened from any street or from any adjacent lot where such adjacent lot is in a zone other than a commercial or industrial zone. And visual screening may include vegetative material, a berm, fencing, or any other opaque barrier, and shall be a minimum height of 2 meters. A shipping container storage trailer shall not be used for the display of advertising. A building permit is required for a shipping container storage trailer, And a shipping container storage trailer may be used as a temporary construction use. All other provisions of the zoning bylaw shall apply.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the public?
So I'll just report on the notice. The notice of the public meeting was sent to the clerks of surrounding municipalities within 1 kilometer radius, in addition to 10 provincial and county agencies. It was also advertised in the Renfrew Mercury. And out of all of those, we did not receive any written or verbal comments back by the prescribed deadline.
Thank you. So we do not have any questions from the public. Comments and support. None written or verbal, right?
I've received nothing from the public, no.
Okay. Comments in opposition. None. Information, I hope.
So the entitled to appeal, under section 3411 of the Planning Act, if council decides to refuse the application or refuses or neglects to make a decision on the application within 120 days of the municipal clerk receiving the application, the applicant or the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing may appeal to the local planning appeal tribunal by filing an appeal with the clerk of the municipality. Section 3419, not later than 20 days after the giving of notice of passing of the bylaw, the applicant, any person or public body who made oral submissions at the public meeting or made a written submission to council before the bylaw was passed, or the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing may appeal to the local planning appeal tribunal by filing an appeal with the clerk of the municipality.
Thank you. Council members' comments. Councilor Crew.
I think the only question I have, and I think staff for bringing this report, I personally think that the restriction was way too high in our current zoning bylaw. The only question I have is the fence requirement of the requirement of screening of 2 meters. So say if someone wanted to do the fence, does that contradict our? We don't have a fence bylaw per se, but we do have a property, I think under property standards or clean yards bylaw, which states some height requirements in there. I want to make sure that it doesn't conflict with any other bylaw.
Okay, thank you. Can you answer that, Hope?
Sure. So yeah, there is the height requirement for a fence in our property standards bylaw. And if memory serves me correctly, when we did discuss an issue there, we are reviewing the property standards bylaw to look at that fence height requirement to kind of complement potentially what this zoning amendment would involve with the fencing requirements for the shipping containers.
Okay, Councilor Humphries.
Is there any, there's no grandfathering at all in this policy, eh? Strictly, if they have one, they gotta bring it up to standards. That's my drift to this. Because there's been some around, like even the township has them on their property, the boat launch stuff, but there's a lot more than you think when you drive around the country. So nothing will be grandfathered in. It has to meet the new standards. Is that right?
Well, it's to my knowledge that anything that's kind of existing, that's in compliance or that's been passed by minor variance or whatever have you, will be grandfathered in. So there are some that with site plans, there are some that have applied for building permits that do comply. It's really tough because it's a new bylaw. We can't go back. And in my opinion, now I'd have to double check with the bylaw officer, but I think because it's a new bylaw implemented, anything moving forward would have to comply, but anything from the date of passage of this bylaw would be grandfathered in.
But there's been some put up without building permits and they're just anywhere. Really?
There are, and we act on a complaint-based system.
Okay.
We don't go out looking for,
Okay.
like, we don't have the staff to go out looking for any issues like that. So if somebody did make a formal complaint, then we would act on it.
Okay.
But unfortunately, we don't have the staff capacity to go out and take a look at each individual properties.
Thank you.
That would be very tough to enforce, Councillor Humphries, anyway, because if it's existing before the bylaw, 99% of the time it's grandfathered in, and it's very difficult back in the to try and get a permit. Councillor Webster's going to counter that also.
Well, if no permit was applied and now and a complaint has come in, they have to apply for a permit. They got to meet this new bylaw. Whether they got to change it or not, but any existing that they did or have done the proper way, then it goes that way. Like it's I think the proper term, Nikki, help me, legal non-conforming or whatever for previous ones. But anything moving forward that if there was a complaint brought in, and then we could issue, we have the rights to make them do it by this way, because this is the time they applied for it. This is when the bylaw was enacted, and we got to move forward that way.
So, Councillor Webster, just so I'm clear, if it's existing on the property as of noon today, before this bylaw is moved ahead, we did not require them to have a building permit to begin with, did we?
Okay, but I'm so there, as long as they met all the stipulations prior to that, right? Then it was allowed. But
Okay.
so, okay, because we had a acreage size, right? So if we had somebody with an acre have one in and somebody's complaining about it, they didn't meet the previous one either, right? The previous planning zoning bylaw. So now we've taken away that limitation. So they didn't meet it before. Now they got to meet the new one.
Okay, yeah, but the situation is with a lot of them, that bylaw for the 25 acres wasn't even in effect, so they're legal non-conforming prior to the last bylaw.
Well, as Hope said, it's complaint driven, but if they met that part of it, we didn't require a building permit at the time, so it's legal non-conforming. But if
Okay,
they were less than that, right, they would have had to go through a planning minor variance or whatever you want to call it to meet that, or for us to amend the bylaw to allow them to have it, then that's legal non-conforming. But if they didn't do that and a complaints come in, then it becomes they have to meet this new requirements of the bylaw.
okay. Deputy Mayor Campbell.
So I'm listening to both, and I'll follow along with Councillor Cleroux. Again, I know we do have a maximum height of fencing for our township, because we're not trying to take away anyone's view as well. And these containers will exceed the 2 meter height, I believe, because we're looking around 6-7-ish feet, where these shipping containers can be up to 8 feet. So I'm not sure where that would go. And then do we get to the fence between the lots is one height, but I'm putting it up on the knoll in the back of my property. So I don't know if they can say, yes, we went with the fence, and we could say, well, then it has to be a vegetation or a berm past that. I just don't know where. And I appreciate Hope where you're saying you're still going through the property standards, and I'm sure that'll be captured in that. And then I believe when the update in the 2010-2014 council of the day, they looked at this being in a rural setting, and that's a lot of people jumped on board. And the standard at that time is that no graffiti, no advertisement, and that it should be painted an acceptable blending color. So I remember some of that wordage in it. So I don't. I guess the question or the concern I would have is our fence height versus our trailer height, because again, if we get into the shipping container would exceed that again to another height if it's still on a carriage assembly.
Oh,
So just to into that comment, just regardless of whatever height it is, it has to be visually screened, whether it's a fence or not. The trailer itself or shipping container has to be visually screened from any adjacent lot line or from any street. So what works best for one property, that a 2-meter height fence may work, whether a vegetative buffer for another property, whether it's a bush or cedar hedge or whatever have you, might work for somebody else. And then any aesthetically pleasing, I guess, trailers would fall under a clean yards bylaw, right? So nobody's going to want, first of all, you're not supposed to be able to see it. But second of all, if you have a trailer that's in your backyard that's graffitied up, that's not aesthetically pleasing, and that would be under a clean yards bylaw. That would, I guess, complaint driven as well, that we would have to take a look at, and our bylaw officer would be involved.
Okay.
Okay. Any more comments?
Just one
Oh,
quick
go ahead.
question. When we talked about this before, if it's, let's say, 10 meters from the side lot and you have your regular fence, can you not put up another opaque barrier within your own property? As long as you're that 10 feet away from the property line? You could have a fence at 2 meters, which is mostly standard. Could you not put in like an opaque barrier or like lattice work and a vine, like have something that's on your own property, but structurally a lot bigger than your storage trailer without actually being a structure, just like a wall? So I just want to know why. So the person looking, well, with the situation before, the person looking, if he was looking over the fence, that's one height. If he's looking at the height of the storage container, that could be another barrier on top. There's no height limit. Like really, you could put up something on top of the storage unit and not really affect the bylaw. You'd have that extra, like a motorhome's allowed 7.5 meters. So why couldn't you just, if you wanted to hide it someplace, to put up a barrier and not worried about the outside fence? As long as you're, you have your property line, but as long as you're 10 feet away, you could put something beside that storage unit as a wall to hide it and not change their view, because legally you're 10 feet away from the lot line or 3 meters. So just another question, but I know where we're coming from, and it's got to be in black and white for sure. I know that. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Hope you want to try and answer that one.
Yeah, no, I think Doug made a good point. Like, really, it's your own property. As long as you can't see it from the road or from your lot line, like I could put up a cedar hedge, or I could put up a lattice work with a vine that covers it. But essentially, at the end of the day, the whole reason for the berm or whatever have you that's going to be erected is that you cannot see it from any lot, like your adjacent lot line or from the street. So essentially, it would just be viewed from that private property owner's own home.
Okay, thank you. I do have one quick question. Maybe Councillor Webster can help me with this one. We outlined it has a shipping container in here. At what point, and someday this is going to come before, so it might as well be brought up right now. At what point does it leave a shipping container and become living quarters in a house when we get our first application to put shipping containers in as a house?
So that's it could be a very long-winded answer, but basically it's got to meet a certain size requirement, insulation requirements, window requirements, heating requirements, and everything else now currently to meet the building code, and it's not there yet. So I know the building code is changing towards these kind of things and all that, but is not there yet. And so as of right now, if they want to apply, it would not meet the building code unless they do a whole bunch of work to it and the size wise. Because I think the minimum requirement size is in line with our planning zoning bylaw, but they're trying to make that smaller and then move ahead with stuff. So currently it doesn't meet it. So, and then there's the whole issue with septic systems and everything else. So, and I can tell you through the information I've received, is that the ministry is looking towards this end of it, but I think they want more the tiny home end of it, more so than the shipping container.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, we don't have to put a little line in here just saying that none of this is allowable for living conditions in.
Well, they could apply, but obviously when the building permit come in for review, it would be shut down unless all those requirements of the building code are met. So you can always apply for whatever you want, and that's with anything in life, but that's where it would be shut down. And if we want to add a line, then sure, but I think any common sense would prevail there, that once it came in, it can be dealt with at that point.
Okay, thank you, Hope.
Yeah, the specifications for this particular amendment is it only allows these types of structures to be accessory buildings. So they won't be primary residential. It's only for accessory.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of council? None? So do I need a mover for adjournment or can I just call it? Okay, so our public meeting for zoning amendment on November the 16th is now over. Minutes from the previous meeting. I need a mover in a second. Deputy Mayor Campbell, second by Councillor Humphreys. Any business arising from the minutes? We all in favor? Deputy Mayor Campbell,
In favor?
Councillor Carew,
In favor?
Councillor Webster,
In favor?
Councillor Humphreys,
In favor?
and I'm in favor. Committee reports, general government, Deputy Mayor Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor Bennett. So 8.1.1 financial departmental report and statement on page 13. I'll first welcome Spencer and Ms. Humphreys, Susan, to the group, and I'll turn the report over to Natalie. Tally, as it
Hello,
were.
everyone. Hello. So my days have been pretty much full of doing budget and working on the reserve balances. So I didn't highlight too many things, so I just wanted to see if anybody had any questions in particular on the report. No. I know I did get a couple phone calls just for clarification, so that was good. But yeah, so hoping I've been putting long hours into the budget and have it all ready for you next week.
So Tally, how are we doing with the budget reports coming back from committees? Has everyone submitted?
No, we haven't. There's one that we didn't receive, but we went ahead and populated the budget for that department. So we'll present it as is.
Perfect, and thank you very much. Are there any questions with the report so far? Susan?
Sorry, it took me a minute to find my unmute button. I didn't have any particular questions on the report. I guess I'm just wondering about for the budget information next week. Are we going to get any material ahead of time, Tally, in order to look at, or?
Yeah, our goal is to have it out to everybody by Wednesday.
Okay,
To have a bit of time to look at it, and we'll have lots of time that day too,
Okay.
'cause that's kind of the purpose, right? To everybody have that discussion, but yes, you will have it ahead of time.
okay, that's great. That'd be helpful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions with regards to 8.1.1? Sorry, Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just one quick question. What do you feel the percentage range is going to be for the budget? Like, just by the way the costs and things going up, like, are we looking at 3? Are we looking at 4? Are we looking at 2.5? Do you see anything that's aiming that way?
The mayor's covering his ears there.
That's all right.
I personally think it looks okay. We don't really want to divulge quite yet where we're
Okay.
at, but we did have a debenture that has matured, so that payment is out of the equation. And we don't know for sure with our insurance yet. We're kind of estimating in the budget, but that could always change. But no, so we don't, it won't be double digits.
No, I know the insurance was 22% last year, so it's hard to sort of justify, everything trying to hold the line, but shocks like that, price of fuel and a lot of other things. So at least we go in and with all the figures, we should be able to do the best we can for this council. So you've done a lot of background work and looking forward to next Friday.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Is there any other questions, concerns? If not, we'll move to page 24 of the third quarter OPP calls for service and billing. Again, I'll turn this over to the author, Hope Billabo. And I know we always, myself, I like to review this again in the quarterly reports to see what's affecting our township. So I'll turn it over to Hope.
Yeah, so I don't have too much in addition to what my report states. It's a good news story for Horton again. We are down total billable hours for this quarter. They're down by 137.4 hours. So that's a good news story, and hopefully that will reflect in our OPP billing the following year.
Any questions or concerns with the OPP billing, Councillor Humphreys?
Isn't it nice to see a quarterly report from Don Ferguson after going through every other times, and we never saw anything except the end of the year? It's really nice to see that every quarter, and we know the direction we're heading. We know what our population in Horton and the speeding and everything else. It's nice to really see that in black and white. And I think she's done a great job, and we should thank her for her reports. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Campbell. Thank
you. And I guess this may reflect as well on COVID as a whole, that there's not a lot of activity going on in the surrounding townships and certainly our own. I know the police are certainly out there doing their due diligence in traveling our roads, and their presence is very much seen. But I think maybe that's part of what's keeping the costs down, because they can scoot right through our township because there's not a lot of events going on right now. So it's the good and the bad. I'd like to see the events and the cost down as well. Susan.
Yeah, just a comment. I thought it was really interesting when you look at the data that the drug possession
Thanks. So did Susan freeze on us?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh.
We'll give her.
Again?
Oh, you're back now. You froze on us.
Oh, good. I can talk again, can I? I was just saying how nice it is to see the report, but also to see that the drug trafficking and the drug related are virtually zero for this quarter compared to last year. So that's really good news for sure. So nice to see that.
And a good comment, because it's, again, I look at the similar too, because again, it's, we're used to the usual dog complaints and stuff like that. So with ever changing the extension of the corridor and whatnot, we start to see a few new headings pop up. And, some of these aren't new, but it's nice to see those numbers down, Susan. You're very much correct. So, Mayor Bennett.
Thank you. I just want everybody to be aware when CPAC, well, it was actually up and running, and you'll know this, Deputy Mayor, because you were chair of it at one time too, or part of it. But these reports were always generated bi-monthly to council when the CPAC committee was actually addressing all the policing issues in the township. And Mrs. Ferguson did say at the time, when she came here to be commander, that she had a soft spot in her heart to service CPAC, and she's doing it to the best of her capability with everything changing in the OPP. So we do have to thank her for that.
Yeah, well spoken, Mayor Bennett, as you were chair of CPAC as well. These are the reports we're given to bring back to council, and we're certainly able to voice our concerns and with the speed board and certainly any concerns we had. You know, don't forget, if there's any complaints or speeders or anything on your road, it's certainly just a phone call away for them to address that, and they do it with both you know, the use of the auxiliary police as well as their current staff. So it's certainly a tool that we should be using if there are any concerns. And again, the wellness committee, there's a report, well, very little to report on it, but that's what that's going to target as well. And I'll speak to that a little further on. So if that's all the questions are for the summary, I will take it over. I keep jumping around here. 8.1.3 staff report, January 22nd, council meeting dates. So on page 29, I'll hand that over to Nikki. I believe she has some input for us there with regarding to some date changes.
Yeah, so this is kind of just with how Christmas lands and the office closed and everything. We're just proposing to push back the 2 January meetings a week. So it'll be January 11th and 25th instead of the 4th and 18th. And it just gives staff kind of enough time to get back from holidays and review everything, get it prepared for council, and then resume normal meetings back in normal dates back in February.
So if everybody can just pencil that in and just be aware that it's offset a week from the first Tuesday to the 11th starting in January. And if there's a hiccup there that you're not able to attend, if we alert staff of this, and we'll see what the new year brings in. Any questions on that? Okay. The last part of this then is the staff report 8.1.4 COVID-19 vaccination policy on page 30. So this was a bit of reading here, and I'm sure everybody's taken time to check it out. And I'll turn this over to Hope. Run out of power.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So everybody's had a chance to review the report. I'm not going to go over it in its entirety, but I would just like to reiterate that this is not a recommendation directly coming from staff. This is a recommendation from the Renfrew County District Health Unit. And stated under OREG 36420, staff are obligated to bring this forward for council consideration. And during that consideration, I'd just like to add that council needs to consider that if the policy is implemented, there could be potential staffing issues and or impacts. There's also considerable time and effort on staff's part that will need to be put into this, which could also cause potential impacts or disruptions to municipal service. And I don't know if anybody saw today, I think today or yesterday was the deadline for the City of Ottawa, and they've placed, I think, 600 employees on unpaid leave starting today. Not that I know they're a much larger municipality than the Township of Horton, but it just shows the impact on to municipal operations. So I'll leave it at that. Open to any kind of questions, and I would like to thank Susan for providing me with some little comments and some spelling mistakes that I didn't quite catch. And a couple just suggestions in just tightening up a little bit of the wording. So other than that, I'll leave it up to council for conversation and discussion.
Questions and concerns? Susan, I'd like to thank you for, again, I'll echo Hope. There's a bit of reading in here, and I know there's a lot of concerns. And I know as staff is, you know, we have to feather through this because what's being said and the legislation is still being changed. I know they're throwing effective dates, and you know, they're, you know, the methods in which we have to disclose and be approved, and you know, there's a lot of words and phrases being thrown around here, and we're still trying to digest because these are being changed weekly and monthly yet. So I appreciate it, all of your input, and I mean, to follow this, we have to do what's you know, best practice, and you know, what keeps our own staff and residents safe. So I know it says, you know, on the top of page 32, including part-time, casual, volunteers, students, future employees, council, and public advisory members to be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 by January 31st, 2022. The draft policy also currently includes a provision for weekly and rapid antigen testing and vaccinated employees at their own cost. So, and again, this is kind of maybe not all new to us. We knew this was coming, but it's just where do we start and where do we stop? And it's easy to put a deadline on this, but I guess we have to create our own policy, and that's what we're trying to do here. So does anybody have any questions or concerns that will be affected you know, by that date?
I've got a question. Are we actually impacted by this by any employees? No names required, of course. But are we impacted by this with employees that may or would decline to become vaccinated?
Well, staff hasn't been asked yet to provide any proof of vaccination, so confidentially, I can't release that information in an open format. Until I do ask them, I won't have that information readily available.
My comment would be, it's entirely possible that we may not have an issue.
It's entirely possible, and it could be entirely possible that we may have a huge issue. It could go either way. I can't confidentially, I haven't asked staff yet for any information, so it could be either or.
And again, today I spoke, or yesterday I'd spoken with Hope, you know, and as just on a voluntary basis myself, I was going to send in a copy of my vaccination that I have been providing. And again, as you're speaking, Spencer, it's exactly what you're saying. At what point, you know, are we going to have an issue or not? And staffing is going to be, even for our events, once we open the doors of our community center, there's an added cost going with that. And I know if we want to open the doors, we have to follow policy. Anyone attending the Remembrance Day ceremony, and I was one of the ones who left my information out in my car. And again, I'm not used to it yet. I'm still staying close to home and not traveling the fine dining that Renfrew and surrounding area has to offer. So I'm not knocking on those doors yet. So I think we're kind of in for a surprise one way or another. And but a very good question. And again, I just don't know. I'll have to leave that with you, Hope, to figure that out, because you know that's certainly in your ballpark as far as how you address that and what the consequences will be, you know, for compliance, I guess. Susan?
I'm just interested in knowing what our neighboring municipalities have done or are looking at doing as well. And I don't know what the county has done, if everybody's just kind of in the same boat right now, kind of working through what they might want to do, as opposed to, going ahead with it particularly. I mean, it's something you could always revisit later too, if you're uncomfortable with doing it now. But I am wondering what, Whitewater or Edmiston Brumley or the town of Renfrew or the county for that matter, where they are on these, this kind of a policy.
Hope?
So I do know Whitewater has passed theirs just recently. They've actually offered to pay for the rapid antigen tests for any employee that needs to be accommodated that way. Arm Prior has also passed theirs. I believe McNabb Braeside has. I know they discussed it. I shouldn't say that. I'm not sure if they did or not. The city of Pembroke has also, and Mayor Bennett, if you could chime in, I'm not sure if the county has actually passed theirs yet, but it is, if it hasn't been, it will be brought to the table relatively soon. There have been other municipalities that have had this conversation already that have deferred it. It is quite a controversial topic politically. So that's it in the county of Renfrew that I'm aware of. I know some other municipalities are bringing it to the table this week as well, but everybody's unsure of how that will play out.
Mayor Bennett?
Just to answer Hope's question, the county council meeting for the month of November is actually on the 25th of this month, and it will be brought forward to all of county council at that point. I personally don't think that we should move forward with putting this any farther than it's here for information and consideration, and leave Hope get some of the other counterparts documents here so we can read and see exactly what's in the documents from the other ones, so we can come up with the very best one that we think is acceptable for ourselves. But they've already researched theirs, and with 4 or 5 already researched, and I'm sure there's comments in there that we would highlight ours also. So I would like to see this actually taken in at this meeting for information to be brought back to the next council meeting.
I have to agree with you, Mayor Bennett, again, because we're still hearing more and more information coming out, and and some of it's straightforward, some of it isn't. Certain groups are not being pushed, and others are. I believe we should bring it as like within our own, as close as we can to be compliant, and then of course the comparison, as Susan has mentioned, with our neighboring townships. The legwork's probably already done. A lot of the check marks have been addressed, and then I know at some point we'll have to have a solid drafted copy that to move forward into the new year. And again, Hope, I know you'll do what you can to research, and I know you have a lot on your plate with all of staff right now trying to work with the budget and whatnot. So I'll leave it to you to muster through. Councillor Webster?
Yeah, I'm in agreement as well to table this or take it as information tonight. There's so many variables out there. I just don't like what we're hearing from the top, the changing of the top. He's trying to direct us what to mandate and that. I don't see from the county, and Hope maybe you can help me here. There is no deadline for us to implement this, to come up with the policy within council. Is that correct?
That's correct. We're not mandated. We're not a high risk setting here, so we're not mandated to implement a policy. There's been no. I'm regulated to bring it forward as a recommendation from the public health unit.
Okay, great. So in discussion with Hope earlier today, I expressed that there is other lines that I'd like to see added to this to possibly help us. And, you know, we don't want to discriminate against anybody, but I'm taking this as information only tonight. That would be my recommendation. And then we just, let's get all our ducks in a row and then move forward with it once. But if there's no deadline, let's get as much information as possible to make the right decision. Thank you.
I guess lastly, I don't know if this is something we'll have to have a separate meeting before the new year to discuss, or, you know, we can discuss through correspondence through staff. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to shoot staff an email. Again, there's so much data out there. There's so much conversation, and there's so much changing. It's kind of convoluted in which way you're supposed to go. So all good comments. And is that it for COVID-19? Okay. And I believe that is the end of my report. And thank you, Susan, and thank you, Spencer, for always bringing the good questions and keeping us on our toes. Your input is invaluable. So they're valuable to a fault. So thank you, Mayor Bennett.
Thank you very much. We'll see you
Thank
next
you.
time.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks. Have a good
Drive safe
night.
tomorrow.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Campbell, I have declared on 8.2, so I'll leave you take it from here.
Okay. We've now come to test committee, and I'll turn it over to Chair Webster. Chair Webster, thank you for all you're doing, and you've had a busy summer, and let's hear how the fall is turning out for you.
Great, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, so you've had the time to review the test committee report. Yeah, lots of things going on, and another great discussion in our last meeting. There's some stuff we're working through, as you can see within the report. And if there's any questions, I will try to answer.
Again, now,
Deputy Mayor.
through the chair, the Johnson Road speed limit adjustment. I know I'd asked at the last meeting, but your test committee meeting was after the council meeting. Just again, wondering what the food for thought is with that heading.
Okay, so Adam brought back a report of what could be possibly increased. I think the consensus, Mayor Bennett, maybe you can help me with this, or Councillor Cleroux, co-chair, that the speed limit in areas that we may bring forward is only going up to 70. Now it's just what areas are we talking about? So basically from, let's start at Bruce Street or Castleford Road across, there's a potential that it be increased there. We've requested from the fire department what their thoughts are in front of the town hall and the fire department, if that should be increased. And then over the hill past Mullins Road and all that. And then once it clears up, 70 at the end towards Storyland Road. So the consensus was we're really not worried about that end of it. Heading towards Stebro and Storyland Road. We're not really concerned. Everybody's kind of in agreement. It's just from Castleford up to the town hall to the intersection, how much of that we want to do. So that's what we're going to be discussing next meeting to bring forward to council. But that's where we're at with everything.
Okay, thank you, Chair Webster.
Yeah, Councillor Humphries.
Yes, Councillor Webster. No, when you were talking about the speed limit, I just, let's say it was a school zone, you drop your speed down in front of the municipal building, the fire hall, and a zone could be at a different speed and enforce it. And I know it's close to Castleford, but it'd be the same as having a school here on Johnson Road, like the good old days. And you usually slow down for a school zone, so it could be posted that from Castleford to past the municipal or to Mullins Road it stays at 50 and then 70 from there on. I think that's a great idea. But I mean, have it that they know they're going into a fire truck, like a fire route or emergency vehicle zone. Like you often see that posted in a lot of different areas. You see signs away ahead of a fire department that says, you know, emergency vehicles cautious, or, you know, they'd be putting their lights on and whipping out of the hall. Like you're doing 75, 80 clicks an hour. So it's something they could think about.
Yeah, so we had a lengthy discussion on this. So the gist of it is, if we're going to lower it between this section in front of the town hall and the fire department, then it really only leaves half a kilometer that you could get up to speed. So you're coming around the corner, you're not doing 70 coming off onto Johnston Road. So should we increase that up to 70, or do we just leave it consistent, nice and easy 50? So that's what's coming forward to discuss the test.
I think it's important to have that in front of the fire hall for sure, for emergencies, keep the speed down. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I agree, but we want to hear Chief Cole's response to that as well.
Yeah.
We want them involved.
Thank you, Councillor Webster.
Yep, no problem. Any other questions on the report? I see none, so I will pass it back to you, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Chair Cleroux, or Chair Webster, Councilor Webster. We'll go into correspondence and turn it back over to the mayor.
Thank you. We will go to the information correspondence. Hope the information memo. We have two issues on there. Deputy Mayor, you want to speak on them?
I'm trying to bring it up here. If we could, I did read it, but I'm not keeping it in my head. So if
we do know that Councillor Cleroux is all up to speed here, and he can go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I'll pass and leave that. And I know this section, Councilor Humphrey likes the section a lot, so I'll leave it for him.
Yeah, make sure Councillor Humphrey to get your buck after this is over with, because he's passing the buck.
Yes, I will.
Go ahead, please, Councillor Humphrey.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Bennett. Yes, thank you, Councillor Cleroux, for passing the buck. No, just a couple of things. There wasn't a very big package. The property assessment caught my eye that they're going to hold it for 22 and 23. And, you know, originally the impact was from 2016 to 2021. They're leaving it at the 21 values for the next couple of years. So that's one part. Question on this Brownsfield financial tax incentive. Available, like I thought Brownsfield was only for helping out, like for you know, like what Mr. Orr did at the Four Corners, but I guess it's a lot more depth for tax for school boards and for development. It's raised it to 10 years. So can a developer make use of that on a 10-year plan? Let's say if a certain person that wants to start a subdivision could be involved for a tax incentive to maybe put in a subdivision someplace in Horton Township. So that was my two things that I was reading up on. And also the Ottawa Valley News came out today and it was a good read. I went on the line and read it. So there's a few good points in that too. So happy reading. Thank you, Mayor Bennett.
Thank you, Councillor Cleroux.
Yeah, and I checked my notes. Yeah, and just to add on to Councillor Humphreys, one of the good news is the OCIF funding will be doubled for the next 5 years. So kind of gave some stable for this last year and the next term of council. So we'll at least get some stable that you know what you're getting, and generous of the federal provincial government giving double. So it's nice to see our gas tax has been doubled the last couple of years. So be curious. Oh, sorry, it's no longer called gas tax anymore. But nice to see if that will continue being doubled, and if OCIF, you know, it's great to see if the next couple of years we can get some roads done and items we can get done, and the next term council will be set up pretty good.
Councillor Webster.
Sorry, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, the OSIF funding, that's great that it's doubled, and that's all I had to add to that. Thanks.
Deputy Mayor Campbell.
And it was the OSIF that I was thinking of, because I thought that was one of the best things, again, as you know, the next term of council coming in, as Councillor Cleroux has said, it'll set things up. I like the 3 bullets. The other items included: the government is investing 12.4 million over the next 2 years, starting in 2021-22, continued rapid access to existing and expanded mental health and addictions supports for health and long-term care workers. You know, we need to see that money going back in after COVID, and you know, like the healthcare in general. We certainly need more facilities to house the aging population, and you know, it's I just reading on Facebook where some of our neighbors that have got reunited here after 6 months, a very well-known couple in the township, and you know, it was nice to see that they're paired back up after 6 months being a pair to husband and wife. So you know, I think we take for granted, you know, we all want to retire, but as long as our health permits it. But when it doesn't, the long-term care facilities, the waiting list is so high, and to see any money coming towards that in any way, shape, or form, you know, is just a huge relief, and it's something that we need to keep pushing. So.
Okay, thank you. I just got, I don't have much more to add, other than everybody needs to thinking where the OSAP money is going to come from once we're all driving electric vehicles. That's going to be a major issue.
Yeah.
And with that, that's all I had to offer there. Action correspondence. Request for the victims and survivors. I hope you want to take that, please.
Sure. So we received this request, I guess, to designate this week from November 14th to the 20th for the Victim and Survivors Crime Week. It's held to raise awareness about issues facing victims and survivors of crime and the services and programs and laws in place to help them and their families. So I guess it's a collaborative effort between the Algonquins of Pikwakanagan, the First Nations Mental Health Team, and Victim Services of Renfrew County rather, and they're hosting an event that's actually being held tomorrow to commemorate the week in our community. And we went ahead before council, when we received this, we went ahead and posted it on our Facebook and website page, so that anybody wanted to attend, they'd have a little bit more notice than having to wait to hear it from us tonight. So there is a resolution coming up a little bit later on to designate this week the Victim and Survivors of Crime Week. It's a lengthy resolution, so I won't read it out now. But that is, we've already went ahead and issued a quick little advertisement for tomorrow's Day of Healing. So not sure if anybody else has any other questions.
Thank you for being on top of that. Hope that it's great to have a staff that is making sure all our residents are being notified as quick as possible, so it's not a last minute decision. So thank you very much for being on top of that. And please thank the rest of the staff supporting your endeavors. Any other comments on the action correspondence? None being heard. We are moving into the bylaws and hopefully.
So there's the There were 4 bylaws on the agenda. So the COVID vaccination policy will be marked as tabled until further notice. So the current 3 bylaws, there's a zoning bylaw amendment, which is the Horton Township for the shipping containers and storage trailers. To 2021-58, authorizing a temporary secondary dwelling agreement with Marie Gagnon from 45 Cheryl Lane, as well as adopt corporate policy section T05, which was the policy brought forward under the TESS chair's report.
Okay, could I have a mover, please? Councillor Carew, seconder. Deputy Mayor Campbell. Any questions, comments? Councillor Webster,
In favor?
Councillor Carew,
In favor?
Councillor Humphries,
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Campbell,
In favor.
and I'm in favor. Thank you. Notice to file motion for the next council meeting. Council and staff members concerned. All's quiet? Pierre, oh, Councillor Webster.
I won't be quiet. Just so looking forward to the budget meeting coming up, and maybe as council get a ballpark number in your head that we can bring forward to staff if we want to change the numbers you're going to bring forward for percentage wise. So just, you know, let's speed the process up. But if we're going to debate it forever, let's if we have a goal in our head that we want to come to, let's be proactive and bring that number. We're thinking to the budget meeting coming up next Friday, correct? Next Friday? Yeah. Okay, that's all I had.
Yeah, just to counteract that, that would be nice to have a ballpark figure from council, but there are some other things to consider. So what wasn't mentioned, we do have a waste tender that won't be closing until December 9th for the next few years. So that will potentially impact what we discussed preliminarily on Friday, as well as was mentioned insurance rates. So we do have an email out to see what that potential increase could be. I do know another municipality in the county of Renfrew is seeing a 35% increase this year. Unsure of whether they saw the increase that we saw last year, but I'm assuming it is something's coming. So whether or not we can take a look at all of the work done and see what we're planning on doing for the budget and then give us a number and see how we can work there. But staff is, it looks really good right now, and staff is willing to work with whatever council and committees wish to see. So.
Okay, thank you, Hope. So everybody's got that in their mind, and I'm sure we'll all bring to, I've had 3 years of verse in my figure, so. Motion for reconsideration, debate on motion to reconsider only. Resolutions, Hope.
That council accept the financial departmental report and statement as information.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Campbell, second by Councillor Webster. Councillor Carew,
In favor?
Councillor Humphries,
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Campbell,
In favor?
Councillor Webster,
In favor?
and I'm in favor.
That council received the 2021 OPP third quarter calls for service billing report as information.
Moved by Councillor Humphries, second by Councillor Webster. Comments? Deputy Mayor Campbell,
In favor?
Councillor Webster,
In favor?
Councillor Carew,
In favor?
Councillor Humphries,
In favor.
and I'm in favor. And I just want to say I'm very pleased that we're able to see what our quarters are like now. And it's very nice to see that we do have a reduction in the services that are required by the OPP. Your next one, Hope.
That council agreed to change the January 2022 regular council meeting dates to Tuesday, January 11th and the 25th, starting at 4 p.m.
Moved by Councillor Carew, second by Councillor Humphries. Any comment? Councillor Webster,
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Campbell,
In favor?
Councillor Humphries,
In favor.
Councillor Carew,
In favor.
and I'm in favor.
That council accept the test chair's report as information.
Moved by Councillor Webster, second by Councillor Humphries. Deputy Mayor Campbell,
In favor?
Councillor Carew,
Favor.
Councillor Humphries,
In favor.
Councillor Webster,
In favor.
and I have declared on that.
Okay. So there is an individual resolution for the contract. So Mayor Bennett, I'll mark you as declaration of interest on this as well. That upon recommendation from the test committee, council agreed to extend the landfill site material grinding contract with National Grinding Inc. for 1 year for a total annual cost of $27,685, including HST.
Please take that, Glenn.
We have a mover? Moved by Councillor Humphries, second by Councillor Cleroux. Councillor Webster,
In favor?
Councillor Humphries,
In favor.
Councillor Cleroux,
In favor.
and I'm in favor. Thank you.
That council accept the CAO clerk's information memo for November 16th, 2021.
Mover. Councillor Humphries. Second by Councillor Carew. Councillor Webster,
In favor?
Councillor Carew,
In favor.
Councillor Humphries,
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Campbell,
In favor.
and I'm in favor.
Whereas when a crime occurs, it doesn't affect just one person, but their family members and the entire community. And whereas victims and survivors of crime and their families deserve support from their community. And whereas many victim service providers, police officers, and professionals working in the criminal justice system provide assistance to victims and survivors of crime and their families. And whereas victims and survivors of crime need to know that they have a voice in our criminal justice system and that there are laws in place to help them. And whereas victims and survivors of Crime Week, November 14th to November 20th, 2021, offers an opportunity to raise awareness about victim issues and about the services and laws in place to help victims, survivors, and their families. And whereas the theme for Victims and Survivors of Crime Week, the power of collaboration, will help to promote greater understanding of victim issues. And whereas an increased awareness of issues faced by victims and survivors of crime and the disproportionate impact for racialized community members will encourage citizens to discuss the impact of crime. And whereas public demonstrations of support for victims and survivors of crime help to build a community's capacity for compassion to assist them and their families and the community as a whole. And whereas addressing victim and survivor issues requires the support and dedication of the entire community. And whereas the support of the Township of Horton will encourage a greater number of citizens to participate in Victims and Survivors in Crime Week. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Horton do hereby proclaim November 14th to November 20th, 2021 as Victims and Survivors of Crime Week in the Township of Horton. Further, it be resolved that during Victims and Survivors of Crime Week and throughout the year, the Township of Horton will recognize victims and survivors of crime and those who assist them. And be further resolved that the Township of Horton will remain committed to addressing and advancing the issues faced by victims and survivors of crime.
Thank you, Hope. Do I have a mover?
Sure do.
Councillor Humphries. Second, Councillor Webster. Comments? Councillor Carew,
In favor.
Councillor Humphries,
In favor.
Councillor Webster,
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Campbell,
In favor.
and I'm in favor.
So there's no on-camera session, so that council enact bylaw 2021-60 confirming bylaw.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Campbell, second by Counselor Webster. Counselor Humphries,
In favor.
Counselor Carew,
In favor?
Counselor Webster,
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Campbell,
In favor?
and I'm in favor. And I believe we are now adjourned. Thank you very